4Beerzin. Woo! Bonjour, je m'appelle 4Beerzin.
Dan's
The
just
French version.
Dan's just got back from Europe.
That's it.
How was your holiday?
Yeah,
That was not French. Does this sound French to you?
sounds like an Englishman trying to do French.
Yeah, a few of us have been overseas. We've been in Japan,
Japan. Sorry, I
UK,
just wanted to say it.
Yeah,
The French
just
accent
say-
just ever
just-
worked. Japan.
Japanese accent in English, France and the UK. Let's say that. And today you got myself, Dan, and then you got Rob on my right,
Hello, hello, hello.
and then Joe on my left.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about everything about cars today. So the stories that we're going to tell today are all related to cars, whether it's being in a car, the outside of a car.
Well, when we talk about cars, we got a very, very special sponsor that does lots of things about cars. They are the people to see about fixing your cars. As you heard in the last episode, Joe had a little bit of an unfortunate accident with a car and so got it fixed by the legends that are. And I'll let you do the spiel right here, Danny.
They are indeed Gasoline Panel and Paint.
You.
And they are located at Unit 477, Motivation Drive, Wangara, Perth.
Phone number 1-800-BIG-BAD-PUDDY. Sorry, bad joke. In joke to the man there.
The contact number is 0483 147 140. Or you can check them out on Facebook or Instagram. So, as I mentioned, we are going to talk about cars. I've had a couple of cars in my time. I have no idea about cars.
Can you tell the listeners about your first car?
What, my Nissan Pantera wagon?
No, so think about the other one. That I got the first time I got in a car with you. We're driving in to go to the pub. We're driving down the freeway. You go, I hope the sun doesn't go down too quickly. I don't have my glasses and the lights aren't working. And I'm like, what? Do you remember that? Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this story. You're looking at me going, ah.
So, yeah, so anyone that's been
Things
in the
you're not
car
meant
with
to say.
me,
Sorry, man, it's so funny. I was like, why am I in the car? We're going to die.
so anyone in the car with me, if I'm not wearing my glasses at what, nightfall? No, what do they call
Just
that
when
bit?
the sunset.
Dusk?
Dusk.
Dusk,
Dusk,
yeah.
yeah.
So if it's dusk and you're in the car with me and I haven't got my glasses on, don't be too worried. I'll let you know I don't have my glasses on.
And then you let them know there's no lights in the car as well.
Yeah, that was a couple of our older cars. There were some light issues.
This was 25 years ago. Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to lead you astray.
So, yeah, so I'll just let you know. And sometimes, need that extra pair of eyes. But that, like Rob said, that was 25 years ago. And
Your eyes are much better now.
I think it's an age. My lights on the car are definitely better.
We got a new car.
Definitely better. Yeah, I've had a couple of old bangers, and I was just saying to the guys here that
You've had a couple of old bangers. Cars. Talking about cars.
Talking
Cars,
about
Joe.
cars.
Well,
Cars.
cars, yeah.
What do you like? Like 4Beerzin and bangers is, and but what we were saying was we're very lucky in Australia. I feel that unlike a country like the UK, we don't need to take our car over the pits or the MOT, the UK listeners who need to take the car over the what we call the pits here twice a year. We're very lucky we don't have to do that. Not that my car is in an unfit condition. It's just that I can imagine how much time and finances that may go towards that to making sure it covers everything. However, the cars I've had in the... Hope I described that very well.
I didn't know we was going to talk about UK car laws or
Yeah, MOTs, the mod.
Yeah.
What does the MOT stand for? Wanted to ask that, but I don't know if that was too serious.
Motor.
Oh, go on.
Motor operating transport something.
It's definitely motor.
Definitely motor operations. No, I don't know. Motor operations transport, probably. Any UK listeners,
Mode
feel
of
free.
transport?
Mode of transport, yeah, that's probably
That
right.
sounds...
I don't know.
That sounds, yeah,
Yeah.
All right,
absolutely
we'll
right.
go with that until the listeners tell us what it actually is.
Please feel
Yep.
free to put a comment and let us know. The other thing is, so as I was saying, I've had a couple of old bangers, and my first car was a Nissan Pantera wagon. So anyone that's had a wagon, they've had nicknames like Shaggin' Wagon.
Wagon.
Yeah,
That's in the museum. You seen the one down in the museum? the WA Museum? They
No.
have a panel van in the bottom, and you can press a button, and the panel van goes up and down.
And that's in the museum.
It's in the museum, in the Maritime Museum in Fremantle. Go check it out. You're welcome, Maritime Museum.
No
Our
Nissan
next sponsor.
There you
Pintaras.
go.
No Pintaras, but it's a wagon. So sorry, back to your wagon
Little
story.
wagon
Sorry.
that does the job.
Mm.
So, and that car treated me quite well, you know. But what it didn't have was power steering. So I'm not sure if all our listeners are aware what without power steering feels or looks like.
Yeah, you're going to have to actually, sorry, just to cut you up, you're going to have to dumb it down because I know nothing about cars.
So without power steering, I remember turning the steering wheel multiple times before I even left the car park for it to go left or right. Very. Rob will know what I'm talking about. So your arms would get quite a workout. Where with power steering, you can almost do that with your finger or a couple of fingers because of all the fluid with the power steering.
Yeah. So
Don't want to get technical on you.
It assists your power. Assists your steering. So
Okay,
yeah.
yep.
That's why back in the 70s, everyone had lots of big guns because
Yeah,
there was no
that
power
explains it
steering.
now.
So ladies were like, "Oh, he's turned that wheel a few times."
Yeah.
So it wasn't just one arm. Wasn't just one arm that was big. Both arms got big from pulling the wheel.
From just being able to get out the car park. But yeah, sadly I had to put that car to the wreckers. Nothing major, just old and things. But the other car I had was a Honda Accord, and it's as good as it sounds.
See, to me, to me, I don't know if that means it's good or bad.
But with most bangers, there is always some, sneaky things under the hood.
Hang on. With most bangers, there's a few sneaky things under the hood. Makes the story sound untoward. But keep going, mate, because Joe's losing his shit just here.
This one did have power
I feel like I've been set up.
and it had. I remember it having blue seats or blue carpet, so it felt very modern. It wasn't, but it felt very modern. But with our poor Honda Accord, when it got to its worst state, if you were driving and you parked your car on a certain angle and it was raining, the roof would fill up with water. And you wouldn't know that until you started driving. And then if you had a sudden stop, the water would come down and it would come down on your back. Which my old man got to feel when he looked after my car once. So it sounds hilarious until you've got that cold water down on your back because you forgot to park the car a certain way.
I remember your dad's van for a business he had, and we all got a lift to a pub one time.
Mitsubishi Express.
And we all got in the back of the van, not knowing what was in the back of the van too much. When we arrived, there's like oil stains and dirt stains all over our white shirts and stuff. Big shout out to your old man; he's a good lad.
Yeah, but that's what you had to do when you couldn't choose your vehicle or had the finances to purchase a more less dangerous vehicle. And my Honda Accord also used to. I'd fill it up with distilled water, and then you drive it for a certain distance, and then when you got there, it was like a waterfall would come from underneath because all the distilled water would come out. So I'd have to fill it up. So just all these, what was it called, nook and crannies in the car.
Got you from A to B though, didn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think that's it. I think today, say that, we'll say the younger generation expect these, flash cars and things like that. But you've got to start somewhere, and you got to start at the old bangers and work your way up.
and work your way
You can't
up.
just
start with an old banger and work your way up.
You can't go straight to a Mercedes.
Can that be the name of this episode? Start with an old banger
Start
and
with
work
an
your
old
way up.
banger and work your way up. That's it. You got to start somewhere, and So, but Rob, have you got any stories about cars?
I've had some old bangers. I had this great old banger, and I bought it a Corolla, 76 Corolla, and it was spray painted with that shake can spray paint you get from our future sponsors, Super Cheap or Repco Auto, and you're there. So it was this weird matte blue color, but it had these great mags on it, and then it had the best Kenwood stereo in it, and it sounded amazing. The stereo,
6 CD stacker.
No, it was I think it was a CD stacker. I think it was actually really really good. It must have been a CD.
And for our young listeners, a CD is a compact
compact disc.
disc.
But I remember this car because it burnt oil, it leaked oil. You had to hold it in fourth gear as you drove along. Reverse, you had to hold in, and then the back because it was a shaggin' wagon as well. So the back door, the back hinge had broken on one, so you sort of had to lift the door and hold it up to get into the back of the car. And I was driving down the beach, and someone stopped me, going, "I love those models. How much do you want to sell it for?" And I was like, "I'm not thinking of selling it." He's like, "Well, how much would you take for it?" And I was like, "Well," in my mind, I'm like, "I paid $800 for this thing." Like I was a pizza delivery boy. Like I thrashed the living hell out of this car. At one point, I hope cops aren't listening, but at one point, there's tomato sauce for pizzas. They come in these big like goon bags for wine, but they're huge. We'd fill one up and I'd put it on the roof of the car and try and drive over a speed bump quickly, and it caved in the roof of the car a bit because of the weight. I thought it was just going to bounce off and pop on the floor and make a big water splash, but it didn't. So I had to bash the roof back out, and it did. So this thing was banged up, and this guy goes, I really want that car. How much do you want to sell it for?" I bought it for $800 and I sold it for $1,200. I go, "You give me $1,200, it's yours today." He goes, "Yep, no worries. Glad to give you $1,200." And I was like, "Sold, man!" But it's got this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that car. That was a wicked wagon. But then I've had some other shaggin' wagons. I've had some panel vans, and a big shout out to Panel and Paint. I've been to many a party back in the day with some of the owners of Panel and Paint, and I remember there's been a couple of times where we had our panel vans parked up out the front of the party where we'd go and party, and so he'd always have his panel van, I'd have my panel van, and we'd have guests that maybe stay with the panel vans. I might go away from that now.
Sounds like a hotel.
But I had a mattress and curtains and other things in the back. But I'll go to this. How many people do you reckon? I had an old Ford XF one at one point. How many people do you reckon I fitted in an XF Ford panel van?
Legally?
No, definitely illegally. But drove on the road to get to another party. I was very young, stupid, still stupid, but I was way more stupid back then. But how many people do you reckon I fitted in the panel van?
16.
Oh.
I don't know.
What do you reckon, Joe?
15.
Oh, odd number.
14 people. You were so close. And there were like people standing over each other as people were lying down in it. We packed so many people in this car. It was amazing.
Talk about that. So when we was kids, my dad, he drove a van, and for Christmas parties or New Year's parties, he would go and pick up all the family members, the like aunts, uncles, grandchildren, all that, and we'll drive out into the country to like one of my family older relatives that would host this parties, right? Because they lived in a big house in the country, and it was only like a 3-seater fan. So everything else, you'd have about 20 people with garden chairs
in the back.
In the back of the van, holding on to each other, and this drive would be about a good hour's drive. New Year's,
bring your own chair.
Bring your own garden chair, and oh man, good days.
So there was no dog seat belts in that van.
No.
Just bring it back from the other episode.
Just you saying that, I just wow. How did we do that?
Yeah, crazy.
How the heck did we do that?
Yeah,
Don't recommend
nowadays.
it now. don't nowadays, don't. Yeah.
Crazy.
What's the craziest thing you've done in a car?
Ooh.
Besides eating McDonald's while driving.
That's pretty crazy.
I've once had to.
Big Mac.
The accelerator cable broke on my car, and so we attached a piece of string to the accelerator next to the carburetor in the car, and I drove the car home using a piece of string as the accelerator.
Wow.
But that was to get it home, back in the day, because I'm so ancient. I don't know. So I got it home. I got to tell this story a little bit. I had a prang, and so again to Panel Paint, big shout out to them. Get your cars there sorted out.
Gasoline panel and paint.
Gasoline panel and paint. Up in Wangara. We'll read out the number again at the end of the year. But with this car, I pranged my panel van, And so I bought a new car to try and fix. And I remember you came around my house, Danny, up when I was trying to do it, and all the car parts were right at the front of the house.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah.
So this is when I was at my folks' house. We were really young back then. So it was last week. But all the car parts are at the front of the house. And the only way we could keep the car in the front of the house because the handbrake wasn't working, I tied it to the tree that was at the front of my parents' house. And so it looked like the car was like a dog being tied to the tree. But then what happened was, to help fix the front of the car, we had to bend down a little bit of it. And so we rocked this panel van backwards and forwards. And this is, my parents were away on a holiday when all this happened. So shout out to the folks. Thanks, folks. But yeah, so we rocked the car backwards and forwards to bend the front end of the car out. We got it out. I fixed the car up and the car was all good. About 3 months later, the tree died. What I didn't realize was that the roots of the tree snapped as we were trying to bend the thing out. So my dad had spent years manicuring this tree.
What type of tree was it?
It was like a, no, it wasn't like a fruit tree or anything. It was like a eucalyptus type sort of tree, whatever. It was about 3 meters, 4 meters sort of high, and pretty decent trunk on it and stuff. But yeah, my dad still doesn't let me live that down. So yeah, killed his favorite tree.
Did you replace the tree?
No, well. No, I asked if he wanted to, but there was another tree at the front of the house. I don't know if you remember. Because just I'm traveling on a tangent here. My dad went out one day when I was there, just got my license, whatever, and he always said to me, when you're doing a job, make sure you do it well and do it safe. The typical father sort of saying, whatever.
You're talking about in your car?
No, well, I was driving out the car, but out in my car somewhere. But my dad had come down and he was going to prune this other tree that was sacred to him. And so he went out with a chainsaw, but he went out with thongs on, flip-flops for English people, jandals for our New Zealand listeners, stuff with your toes showing, your top of your foot showing. I went, Dad, mate, seriously, you've always telling me I should put shoes on, put some shoes on. He's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'll be right. I'm safe. I'll be right. I'm like, you sure? And he's like, yeah. And I go, I don't want any phone calls about you being in hospital or anything like that. He's like, no, I'll be fine. Go on, get on your way, whatever. So I drove off and I went off to go do what I was doing. And then I got a phone call from Mum. I was like, hey, Mum, what's up? She goes, guess what? I was like, what? Yeah, Dad's chained off the top of his toe. And what he done, he swung with his chainsaw and it just nipped the top of his toe. And he has never done gardening again in thongs. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Always wear shoes when you're doing stuff with chainsaws.
Yeah. That's Rob's tip.
Rob's tip.
Rob's tip.
Yeah. Rob's tip. Doesn't matter. I was going to go somewhere bad there for a joke.
So yeah, it'd be great to hear from our listeners. Any car stories or car related stories, I guess.
So yours was McDonald's, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the risky thing in the car.
Was it McDonald's?
Yeah, it is risky now because I can't do any of that. Yeah.
Well, go through McDonald's.
Well, no. No, now, and I don't know if it's an older thing, but I couldn't eat a Big Mac and drive at the same time. I get sauce everywhere. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really not worth it now.
Yeah.
I'd rather get my, we're not sponsored by McDonald's, but it'd be great. I'd like to get my McDonald's and just eat it pleasantly. And,
So I'm just giving this. I remember once. I don't mean to steal all the time here, so apologies, lads. But I remember one time, 21sts, everybody, maybe this could be another podcast. Presents you give to people when they're 21st or presents you've received when you turn 21. With one of the groups of mates that I was with, everybody needed to get something from a sex shop. And on this particular occasion, one of our friends out there, we'll just call her Tanya because we don't say names on this. So Tanya got a blow-up doll. And we also made a video for Tanya for her 21st. Where everywhere that Tanya would go, we went there with this blow-up doll and filmed it. And so we went through a Hungry Jack's drive-through with a blow-up doll. And the Hungry Jack's people loved it. Anyway, sorry, bad story. That's the story.
Yeah, now I've had many breakdowns in cars.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call them risky, more annoying than risky. Never flipped a car or anything like that, like they see in the movies. Just a lot of breakdowns and things like that. But you got to take care of your car, That's probably why over in the UK all their cars look lovely and nice because they go over the pits twice a year. MOT.
Yeah.
MOT.
So, who are we going to get on the podcast then, you reckon? Who's got a lead? Because we were talking about
some interest. That's the thing.
So Britney Spears is going to get back to us from last episode. So this episode.
Have you heard from since last episode?
No, not yet, but never say never.
See, I heard, so through the grapevine, Coldplay coming to town. And so we've got some contacts who are opening bands for Coldplay. And they've got it. So there's a chance we could get Chris Martin. You just say, I don't want to steal your catchphrase, but we could possibly get Chris Martin and now your catchphrase.
Is that a true story?
It's a true story.
So if you didn't hear it,
If you've heard it here, it's a true story.
Yeah. All our stories are all true.
well, I say it's going to happen. But if you did, you heard it here first on 4Beerzin. Chris Martin. Wow.
Reaching out to Chris Martin.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see if we've got, time for Chris.
Yeah.
We give him like a bowl of apples or something on the.
Apples? What?
Is he got a thing for a bowl
Apples.
of apples?
That's his kid's name, isn't it? Apple.
Is it?
Yeah, do a Google.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, talk about current affairs. Lost on YouTube.
I'm still trying to think about what MOT stands for.
4Beerzin.
4Beerzin.